So, welcome to this 3-day workshop. And the title of the workshop is Inside Out. And Georgi
to flip herself inside.
knows everything about Inside Out.
Over to me?
Yes.
I read an article this morning about we posted an article, somebody sent it to the I Am Here site, about the myth of enlightenment, about how we're so trained to follow authorities and systems and thought patterns and belief systems that in the collapse of religion and a kind of consensus that we all think the same, we go on a spiritual search, and often we just pick up another whole system of beliefs, an alternative system of beliefs and thoughts, and all of this is in the search for this goal, which is enlightenment, which once was, heavenly salvation or some kind of protection. This is the very last thing we want to do here in teaching, is to give beliefs, to give an alternative dogma, to say this is how it is, and you have to accept this and carry it on as this is how it is. It's not what we're about. It's not what Bart has ever been about. It's not what, in its basis, the School of Spiritual Psychology is not a rule of dogmas and beliefs and instructions. It's all about a different kind of shift altogether, which is into the world of genuine, authentic experience of whatever is true for you in any moment. That's the only learning that can happen in our eyes. The real inside-out learning of whatever is needed for any individual in the moment. That is the chief authority here. There isn't another one. We don't have a sane president of America anymore. The only thing we can trust is where we feel we can be trusted, which is in our own perception, our own understanding, our own point of view, our own experience. Anything that we say here is, I hope, serving that. And if it's not, throw it away. So sometimes it's helpful to give another point of view, because then the absolute grip of one point of view opens it up, so it's possible to see alternatives. Alternatives for the sense of your own truth, of what feels true, what fits, what feels comfortable, what feels right. For us to move with ourselves, to trust ourselves that much, we need to move through a lot of fear and unpleasant feelings, which are here as well. Insecurities, doubts, not knowing. Because most of the time, if not all the time, we really don't know anything, because knowledge is a kind of thing, We can express as best we can what's true in the moment, but it's gone the next moment also. So the fear of not knowing is a great place to move through, to relax into not knowing. This is partly because we have this new skill born in our evolution with our brains, which is this skill of judging, of judgment. This is good and this is bad. I want this, I don't want that. This I like, this I don't like. And this binary means either or, program of yes this and no this, is also energetic. Also with our feelings we do it. I want to look here, I don't want to look here. It's part of the nature of consciousness in a way. I choose to look at you, I'm not looking there. I choose to look here, you disappear. There is this selectivity that goes on with being a conscious brain, a conscious mind. But when that turns inward, and we start to judge ourselves, this bit of me I don't want, this bit of me I do want, then we begin to get into suffering. We begin to, and what does that mean that we begin to get into suffering? We begin to shrink our world, because the bits we don't want, we don't look at. We don't want them to be there. They're there anyway, but we cover them up. And then the cover-up, the blanket on the monster is also dangerous. And so we cover that up. And then in this we kind of get this suffering of isolation in a way. Because all around us there's threats covered up. We don't even know what's under the blankets anymore, but we feel so alone, so separated. So judgment is a faculty of mind. It's a skill, it's a mental skill. Like attunement, like choosing what you listen to and what you don't listen to. It's a skill. In itself it's clean. But when it's not free, it becomes a slave master. It becomes a survival threat. If we're on the wrong side of the sword of judgment, the most awful thing can happen, whatever that is, in our own psyche. So part of this course, it's a course on non-dual therapy, is to do with the allowance and softening of this skill of judgment, so that we can begin to play within it, to use it for our own purpose and for the sake of the whole, and not use it as a whip to punish ourselves with, almost unconsciously.
It can also be very funny.
Extremely funny.
Yeah.
When it's liberated, judgment can be very funny. And it's a skill. So just as it is with judgment between right and wrong, good and evil, like, dislike, me, the other, just like it is with that, the whole of the human form, this is what we want to give a sense of in this course, the whole of the human form, everything we could think, everything we could feel, everything we could experience with the body, is a kind of revolution from the inside out. It's this kind of movement where the inside becomes external and the external is a projection of the inside. There is this constantly moving form of human experience, and the aim, in a way, the target, is to get free within that, to be free enough to let it move as it needs to through us in naturalness, without judgment, because it's already there. And that's in a way the art of playing in duality, to let life live you rather than believing that we somehow have to live life and structure it and make it like this and this shape and this shape, to let it move through us in real time. For this, it's necessary to allow the movement of any form. It's necessary to be in a place where we are not that form, where we're not holding on to it, or we're not pushing it away. It's necessary to be consolidated, to be safe in a place which is formless. And then it can move, because it's really okay, because we are that which it moves through. We are that which allows it, the movement. without it saying anything at all about us. So when working with other people, this consolidation is also extremely important, because just as we unconsciously even are driven by fear to hold on to this and to avoid this, to interfere with the movement of life in ourselves, in the same way we're utterly interrelated and entangled with other people. So if it's a client sitting in a room, there will be, this golden holy agenda to heal, for example, is the greatest kind of, okay, you're an alcoholic, I have to make it good, I have to fix this, I got an agenda, it's not okay, you cannot die, okay, you're sick, but you cannot die. All of these subtle agendas where it's not allowed to express itself. There's no trust in that movement of what is already there to move itself of itself to where it's needed. So this is a really important consolidation for working in healing. This degree of freedom to not interfere. To be there, it's not like we turn away and we neglect, it's to be present but not to interfere, not to as much as possible, not to entangle. So for this, everything we think that we are, the person, the personality, the ego structure, the person which is me, it really needs to be laid to the side when we're in action. Of course it has its time to express itself completely in all of this, but when we are in service to others, and also to ourselves in the end, because by degrees this person which is you can begin to become annoying. So this ability to let it go, just let it go, let it go, let it be, but let it go. Let it go and let it be is very, very important. And that's a huge thing, I say that and we'll, get rid of the person, but it's this has got roots all the way through to our qualities. Even the most superficial layer of ego is rooted in the person, in the personality, which we inherit, and the survival instincts of the personality. And that in its turn is rooted in the qualities, which we're here to manifest, which in its turn is rooted in the source of all we are. So it's all alive. So it's not so easy just to say, okay, get my ego and my person out the way. It doesn't really work like that. It works more as a function of consolidating in the places beyond personhood. The places where we are one. For example, the recognition of love. The love which is, even now, so tremendously here between humans and animals and nature. This incredible love, which we tend to blind to because we focus very much on the contractions and on the hatred and on the bad stuff, but there's incredible love, just even in humanity. There is an incredible peace. We're living in a war zone. And all the time people are talking about let's make peace in the Middle East. Every morning, every night, every second of every day we experience peace in the Middle East. It's a very peaceful place. There's peace between people, there's peace between cities, there's peace between populations, people are working together, people talk to each other, people are human towards each other regardless of their religion. It's not the first thing. As much as in Holland, maybe more. I don't know.
Yeah, it's living on the edge.
It's living for real.
Yeah.
Now and again there's a terror attack, like everywhere else, and everyone says there's no peace in the Middle East, or our so-called leaders say something disgusting and ugly, and there's no peace in the Middle East. There's no document on paper that incarnates this peace which is already there.
Mm-hmm.
And there's plenty of war at the same time within the families. within the Israeli communities, between different factions of Jews, between different factions of Arabs, between Christians, and it's all, the peace isn't to be dictated by this kind of pseudo authorities that say, let's make a contract and then there'll be peace. So that's like our mind. Our mind thinks it can do that, but it's not real to what is here. There's an incredible peace here right now. It's a non-dual space. It's a space outside of personhood. It's a given. The only thing we can do to affect this peace is ignore it. Numb ourselves to it. Close our perception to it. It's the same as with the love. We can't take it away. We can't get rid of it. We can only cloud it, repress it, not be aware of it, ignore it. It's the same with our freedom, pure freedom. We're free whether we like it or not. It's not something that's given from the outside. It's not something that anyone or anything can take away. We are free. We are freedom. It's a non-dual position. The only thing we can do to affect our freedom is ignore it. Close our sense perception to it. Sit on it. So these are very, very common, freely available non-dual resources outside of personhood. So in a way, getting rid of the person has nothing to do with getting rid of any person, because the person was not really the main point. It's just allowing those spaces which are always here. So of course, judgment, good, evil, like, dislike, me versus the world, me versus you, all of these splits into polar opposites, into dualities, it's powerless with peace. For example, this is my peace, not yours. I'm very peaceful. I can say it. I can say, I'm very peaceful and you're not, but that's not peace anymore. That's war. You know what I mean? It's not something that can be grasped or held or fixated or used as a glorification of my selfhood. We can try and grasp it, and we can say, I am love. We actually know such a guy. He changed his name to Love.
Mr. Love.
Or I am Bliss.
They dance together.
Mrs. Bliss.
But very soon it's not that blissful anymore. It's something else. It's what you feel in the energy, and this is a sense perception, is you feel the energy of ego. You don't feel bliss. You feel the energy of superiority. You feel the energy of separation. You feel the energy of arrogance. Which is okay, because it's all a work in process, but it can't be possessed. This is one of the aspects, one of the qualities of non-dual qualities is that they cannot be possessed. Actually, nothing can be possessed at all. Because if you go with possession all the way of possessing something, all the way, let's say I want to possess Inga. She's mine. Mine. Yeah. So I can take an idea of Inga and say, okay, she's my friend, not yours. And, I can do all kinds of pee-pee-kaki, blah-blah-blah, with Inga's name, with the way she looks, with her personality. I can say who she is as a way to possess her, dictate her. Inga is this, and this. But where is Inga? This is just my fantasy. Mm-hmm. Something I created here, which is, Inga can look at this Inga here that I create, and it's like, okay, whatever, it's not me, baby. So let's say, I really, really genuinely, from the depths of heart of myself, totally, really want to possess her. The only way I can move to really get the real thing is to utterly and totally let her fill my universe, let her in completely until there's no me left anymore. And then for a moment, I might experience ingerness. For a moment, and then I will be back again in a blend of something else. That's as far as it goes. It can't be held. It can't be kept. It can be kept, it's eternal if you experience something real, but it can't be kept and boxed and claimed and controlled. So possession disappears and something else comes forward, which is much more like unity. There's a collapse of the person, of both persons. Okay.
So there is this beautiful North American Indian saying about possessiveness and possessing things. And it's just one sentence. But just to kind of look into it and to taste it's really helpful. So, to try to possess anything brings you in a possession that you're possessed by what you try to possess. It's a complicated sentence.
It's not. If you want to possess something, it will possess you.
Exactly. Yeah.
And this is actually possible to see this acting out through our lives and through the lives of others, because others are our greatest teachers as well. How this moves. You know, the guy who possesses his wife. She is his object. And it moves so quickly into jealousy that she looks this way, she looks that way, that she wears this, and he becomes possessed. So part of the dance of duality, that's one thread of learning in a way, to learn the dispossession, to learn, or the nature of possession, what it is and what it's not. To be willing to let our nervous systems train in the art of not having to possess anything, not grasping. Even if it's a moment of experience, not grasping it. And it's the same movement, not pushing it away from ourselves. And if you take it really in slow motion, you can see how that happens. You know, I'm in a meditation, and comes forward an incredible feeling of infinite love. Exactly. So you know what happens. You know. So this is my God. I'm so holy. You know. This is an incredible feeling of infinite love. Also, already the thoughts are beginning to name it. That's possession. I'm having an experience. I've already lost it in that moment, and there's nothing wrong with it, because this is the dance of form. This is the dance. But the moment comes forward, the experience of pure life, pure vitality. It's almost too much for the person to collapse all at once, and by reflex, the form, and the whole form is governed towards its own survival in a way. It says, okay, this is love. And it's holding something then, and the love is gone. Mm-hmm. It's holding here. And it can let go again, and it's back again. So it's a lot of this movement of picking things up and then letting it go. Remember, let it go, let it go, let it go. It's safe to let it go. And when we begin to do that, also in meditation, there's quite a quickening. With each little bit of control we give up, there's an immediate expansion and reward and quickening. And it's the same with the good stuff and with the bad stuff. Because it's not really good or bad. You know, if love was the issue, grasping love, then it wouldn't be true to say that. You know, what we really seek is the relief from our suffering. and the love is there anyway. So also with where we suffer, the reflex to get rid of it, to heal it, before we even allow what it's about to appear in our experience, meaning to suffer. So what we tend to do, and I include us as much as anyone, because this is the art of living, is what we tend to do is we get a smell of suffering. We can smell it, the suffering there. We don't know what the suffering is. We don't know what the full experience of it is. We don't even know where it was born. And we don't know how bad it is, but we can smell it. And already there, we try to heal it, but we don't even know what it is that we are blocking. We've already tried to heal it. It's like forgiveness, everyone should forgive everyone, right? Wonderful. But how true, sorry, I'm quite cynical this morning. You can try so hard to forgive somebody, but through the way of bypassing, allowing the experience of what actually it is that you're forgiving. So how can that be a true forgiveness if you can't allow the pain of what it is that you're forgiving? It's like the cherry on the cake without the cake. You can't forgive something if you don't know what it is, if you don't feel it. It would be very convenient if somebody could do something to you really, really, really nasty and cruel and horrific, and you could just say, okay, I forgive you. Never really have to let in the horror and the shock and the breakage of that. If we can really, really, really let in the horror of what's been done to us as it is, alive, and still be peaceful, more or less, until it even stops to simmer a little bit. It just is what it is. Then the movement of forgiveness begins to be possible, and it's more a movement of letting go of the personal attachment to the horror than it is anything to do with the other person. We're throwing around a lot the term non-duality, and what we're teaching is very much a middle way of non-duality in Western healing and Western psychology, because it seems and whatever we experience among ourselves together with you, of how healing is moving from a non-dual perspective, from perspective outside of personhood and ego, personal identity. So I tell you a little bit of what classical non-duality is, so that you know the basis and you know where we're going together, where we're moving. So I'm no authority on Advaita Vedanta, which is the ancient Indian wisdom of non-duality in its core. But the state of the art right now is that there are many, many teachers of non-duality out there, of many different, very much going through processes similar to what we're going through here. Meaning you can't just say the whole world's an illusion and that's it. The world just comes back straight through you. It's always an evolutionary process. It's always healing. There is compassion born when you get free of self. It's a bummer, but that's how it is. You still care. You can see that you are nothing, nobody, no one, but you still care. It cannot even be an individual person left, but you still care about the rest. And they are you. It's the nature of it. So classical non-duality is very much brought forward by Rupert Spira, who is can be found on YouTube, and who is a British teacher of non-duality. Spira. He speaks beautifully and simply
Yeah. Yeah.
and rationally, in the clearest Western way possible, meaning making sense to Western people without, gods and goddesses and all of this, about the fundamental psychology of non-duality. His teacher was Francis Lucille.
Academians also.
Yeah. Very dry, intellectual, super intelligent French guy.
Yeah.
So Rupert Spira's teaching is really on this, in his words, about getting free of the illusion of a separate self. Getting free of the belief in yourself being separate from the whole. And this is a core message which has incredible depth. It's not like, hey, got it, there's no separate self. It's an ongoing, fluid, experiential uncovery. The realization that there is actually no separate self. As a baseline. So it tends to move like in this revolution, like the torus, from the inside out. So you have this realization: whoa, I'm not separate self. I'm not a separate self. Rupert is right. And then you go home to your husband.
Fuck you.
Exactly.
Go shit somewhere else.
And all the forms of separation come forward. And we didn't choose for that. It was nice not being a separate self. Who would want it? Who wants to be a separate self? Anyone here want to be a separate self? But still, something is alive in separation. Something is happening here, as Bob Dylan said. So there is a way of being with that shit, which is to say, to really take that something is happening here, to take that on. So I know from the depth of my wisdom that I'm not a separate self. But here there's anger arising through me. Here something's happening. I'm getting really pissed off. Or I have dissociated, or I've frozen. I'm suffering here. There's suffering happening here. So that's a way of letting life live through you. You're just taking out that I. There's still a separate self happening, but we're not really it anymore. The separate self is happening through us. The separate self, or the game between separate selves, the entanglement of separate selves, is happening here. Well, it's true, it is, isn't it? If you watch TV, it's a whole dance. It's a whole drama after drama. Just pick your drama of separate selves happening here, including our own. So it's really not a matter of getting rid of any separate self. It's a matter of getting rid of possessing a separate self. My separate self, in such a way that we're not even aware that we got possessed by it. Doesn't mean it goes away. Tomorrow we will go more into the inherited aspects of personhood. What we got together with our bodies, from our parents in our personality. And to understand and to release this idea, to understand and release this idea that there's any me in it at all. It's a kind of chain of generation after generation of stuff, of separate self stuff happening here through us. We really don't need to grasp it. We need to stay in that other space, which is everywhere. The peacefulness, the ability to let go into freedom, the ability to share what is real in the moment. The space between all of the balabaloo. The aspects which are not changing. And there's so many of them. There's the timeless one, for example. The one which is here, inside us, outside of any story. Same one that was here, maybe when the stories first got written as when we were children. The same one is here now. Behind all the different things that happened. Same one. Didn't change. Has no story. The same one that will be here tomorrow morning. If we're lucky.
Or blessed.
Or the same one that will be elsewhere tomorrow morning. It doesn't go anywhere. It has no story. Exactly the same one that will be here as is here now on the 1st of May 2017. Same one. Lots of stuff happened. Made no difference to it. And the beautiful thing about these non-dual aspects, these aspects outside of personhood, these places, spaces where we are one, is that when we begin to relax in one aspect, for example, the timeless one, the others follow. It's a party there, there's peace there. There's a naturalness of love, just of itself. There's spontaneous care. We didn't do anything, it's just there, we care. There's freedom. That's enormous. That means we don't need to react. We don't need to suffer the story. Meaning the story can happen and there can be suffering in the story, and it can even be our suffering in the story, but we are not the center of that suffering. We are not suffering. That's a little bit refined. Because I want to be careful, because I don't want us to want to get free of suffering. So I say it again. We don't need to be the suffering of the story. We can be aware that suffering is happening here within a story as the timeless one, as the peaceful one.
May I ask on something? That was the same in the Zoom meditation. It feels like a sort of dissociation of the ego, from the ego. So for me it's a form of dissociation to get whole again.
For you it feels like a form of dissociation from the ego in order to get whole again.
Yeah. I can't explain it in another way.
Yeah. Well, dissociation is quite a loaded word.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, for me, when I hear the word dissociation, I feel a psychological fear. Because that's a word psychologists use to say this person's gone.
Yeah. But that's not the dissociation I mean. You have to dissociate from your own patterns.
Yeah.
Take a distance.
So, and what's commonly used as a word is disentanglement.
Disentangling, okay.
But dissociation is good. It's just a danger word because when we say dissociation, often we're talking about something else.
Yeah.
It's really very simple in a way in what you explained before. It's where you focus on. Are you focused on the ego? Are you looking at the ego? Or are you looking at something else which is timeless? So when you look at something else which is timeless, in the beginning, when you're there, you're not so aware of the ego. It feels like a kind of, you're loose of the ego. It's like dissociated because you're not looking at it. But the moment that you found your home in the timeless, the ego is there as well.
Yeah.
But you're totally aware. You see the ego as well. You see the timeless, you see the ego, everything is there. But you're totally aware that this part of yourself is not what you are. It's reactions, learned behavior, reactions, and it's so easy when you see ego coming up, which is cover up, not being truthful in the first place towards yourself, is this cover up, it's not needed anymore. So it starts to deflate slowly, and it starts to fall off yourself. It's not needed. It's really something we don't need. That's different from the person. The person we need. That we will talk about that tomorrow. We need the person to give form. And ego, most of it we can drop. We don't need so much of this protection.
Yes.
Sorry.
Is it more the state you are witnessing everything?
And there is a state where you're witnessing everything. There is a state where you're experiencing everything, and there is a state where everything is witnessed, experienced, and has its own life moving through you. And this is more what Georgi is talking about. This is where the experience and the witness are coming together as one.
So there is this stage where it feels like dissociation or witnessing, like drawing back from the world and looking at the show, which is absolutely fine. But it's a little bit forced. It's a little bit forced. We're using a little bit, and it's absolutely fine as well. If this is what's needed, we're using a little bit the energy of aversion or the agenda of getting free to get to this space where I see my ego, or I see the world, the whole balabaloo, and I'm on the outside. I'm not of the world. It's a stage. It's not an end point. And what's really, really important to show is that it's not an end point, because the more we rest back, for example, in the timeless one, it of itself births a whole more subtle layer of experience.
It's more a state.
It's not, by itself, it's not like the timeless one. When you rest back in the timeless one, it's not like the timeless one is a thing, and this thing, the timeless one, is looking at the pretensive ego. This isn't what happens. When you relax into the timeless one, it melts and expands and has it fills the whole universe of your perception with much more subtle experience, subtle flavors. For example, the sense of ego. There's a sense of ego. So even before we know what form our ego is taking, we can sense something moving forward. Or a sense of ego in the field, or the sense of, and this is the lion's share of it, is the sense of peacefulness, the deep relaxation. The sense of home comes forward. And it moves through everything, including through the ego. So the ego no longer looks like what it was or what it would need to be if you were still dissociating from it. The ego is alive. It's totally alive, and it's sensitive. You bash somebody's ego, you bash them in the core, possibly. Because it's rooted all the way through the person to the trauma. So, you say, Georgie, whoop, direct hit. It's alive. We're not cutting off bits and pieces of ourselves. But the more we relax into the timeless, the more it has a transformative effect by itself on all of those structures. We're just not in control of that. So the ego softens. It softens and begins to rejoin the whole. It's not a thing that we reject. It's a thing that melts back into us in a way. And from the space of peacefulness and timelessness, and from that sacred safety, you can actually feel that happening. And it's a reunion. It's lovely. It's really lovely. The ego's not an enemy. It's like a little child. It's a piece of ourselves. You know, this violence which is saying amputate, amputate, get rid, this is exactly where we don't want to go. Nothing, not even the most silly thought in the head is random. Everything is asking for space. Just the space to be, the space to move, the space to transform, the space for time, including the ego. Where is it even? It's like everything else. We can't even possess our own egos. Can't find it even to possess it. If you look for it, you won't find it. You can make stuff up about your ego. Can't be held.
I don't know what I want to ask actually. I'm experienced. The word ego is not something that I am busy with or something. And I'm thinking now, what is ego? Like, maybe it's what I think, like belief structures, all that. It's clinging to that, and that is ego.
Partly. But basically, yeah, it all depends where you look at it. You'll find ego reflected in belief structures.
Yes.
But what are belief structures?
Yes.
So belief structures are rooted in pain.
In pain.
Pain.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because from the field of not believing anything and not knowing anything, we grasped something because it hurt.
Mm-hmm.
So this pain is part of the material of ego.
Mm-hmm.
You can look like Mr. Hey, I'm too sexy for my cat, but you scratch the surface, it's pain.
Mm-hmm.
It's the pain of not being seen, actually.
Mm-hmm.
In that case, for Mr. Sexy, too sexy for his cat.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is a really good question, because what we're talking about now is what is the energetic substance of the separate self? What's it made of? How can we let it live? How can we set it free? How can we let it be what it is?
So is ego part of separate self, or are they the same?
So there is the 99% of what we really are.
Mm.
And then there is our bodies. Creation. A created miracle baby. Hey, we got a new baby. Miracle, miracle. Life is born.
Yeah.
New, unique physical body. Somewhere with the birth of that baby, there kicks in a whole genetic program. Not only of what color eyes and legs, length of legs and all of the features, also of the personality.
Mm-hmm.
Directly inherited with its wounds and everything from the sperm and the egg.
Mm-hmm.
And in addition to that, formed by the conditioning of its parents, its family, its education, its culture. We are highly conditioned also through the wounds of separate self.
Mm-hmm.
And what does that mean? It means even the brain is forming its neural networks on the basis of separate self. So that's where we get to the real core of the morning talk in a way, which is this basic duality, fundamental duality which we carry, cause of so much suffering, which is me versus the world. Me versus the world. And for many, 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 many people today, in the present state of conditioning, that is the norm. That is the whole art of living. It's me versus the world. Am I going to survive the world? Am I going to change the world? Am I going to make a difference for the world? Will me be seen in the world? Is me part of the world? Does me even belong in the world? Does the world belong in me? Am I the world? Or is the world me? You know, this whole wiggledy-biggledy around me versus the world, whether at any age, at any time, this is a duality which is playing out.
Mm-hmm.
So the inspiration behind the course is to work to the depth in softening up this duality through resting more deeply in the peace and the love and the freedom and the care and the unity which is always here. And that's just some of the non-dual.
Sorry?
That's just some of the non-dual qualities, or just that which is always here.
Mm-hmm.
So, in this duality between me, and the world, that's you lot.
Hi, Dan.
We carry already in our beliefs borders of where we think we end and the world begins. And I say that in the broader sense, you know, and then we can break it down to the 3 layers, you know, in the mind. I am this, I like it. And it goes on and on. I like this, I don't like this. I am a good person, I am a healer, I am a female. That's a big one. I don't like Donald Trump. You know, so all of that mental stuff is all growing out of me versus the world, because me has to select what kind of world it needs to fix or deal with or let in or not let in.
Mm-hmm.
So the bits of the world which we like, we want to take in, and the bits of the world we don't like, we throw out there. And it's all happening in the same field. So it's not actually a unified border of separate self we've got here. We've got this crazy thing happening, you know.
Yeah.
All over the place, of selection and deselection, you know, Mengele up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down, live, die, live, die, live, die. Also towards ourselves. And that's really, really an incredible suffering if we have lost our connection with the non-dual space that watches it happening. You know, when you go into an ego crisis, yeah, when I go into an ego crisis, and my ego comes forward to protect me, because it's so fucking painful beneath that. My ego comes forward and it's like, okay, I'm a writer. I am Mrs. I am here, you know, I don't need to worry about this conflict. Whatever comes up, the ego structure, to protect me for my service. And somebody comes to me and says, you're an ego. It's really not that helpful. But it's also true. But it's there as like an army to serve us, in the process of healing, and then in a way to disappear and become innocent citizens of the state again. It's our ally embedded in the ego structure. It's not our enemy.
Is it a structure full of masks? Is that?
Yes. So in this thing of me versus the world.
Yeah.
There's 2 ways to it. There is the inside out. There is me looking towards the world, and there is also this horrific thing, which is the world looking at me. Right?
Uh-huh.
So that's what ego is.
Okay.
What do I need to be to protect myself from being murdered for being me?
Yeah.
So let me pretend that I'm, you know, what the world needs from me in order for me to live.
Yeah. Okay.
99% of this is bullshit.
Yeah.
The world ain't looking at us at all. We're looking at ourselves as the world and judging ourselves like this. Whoop-a-da. It didn't even happen. But because we seek that kind of liberation through punishment, because it's not nice being in ego, being separated, we will hunt out in the world exactly those people who will give us the hit us with a stick that we need to hurt.
Yeah.
What?
Thank you.
Thank you for hitting me with a stick. It's a very good attitude, the attitude of gratitude.
Yes. I can be this now.
So this is how projection works. This is how we create our reality.
So is ego, can you also say then that ego is a projection structure?
My ego or your ego?
That's a good question.
If you look at my ego, you're projecting.
No,
If you look at
meant
your
in
ego,
general,
yeah.
but now I understand
Yeah.
that's how I experience my own ego.
Yeah. So we project, basically we are empty, there's nothing here. If you empty yourself out completely, the world will project form onto you.
Yeah.
Where we are not free, in the deeper layers of ego, we all say, I like this form and this is not fair. This is not true.
Mm-hmm.
We start again
Yeah.
because of the projections of others towards us.
Mm-hmm.
So the movement of getting free within ego is a movement of also being able to allow whatever projections of other people that come towards us. They can think you're Jesus, they can think you're Satan, they can think you speak shit, they can think that you're wonderful. It's the same shit. It's all projection.
Mm-hmm.
To be able to allow it to move through you, to be happening here without grasping it.
Yeah.
That's a big one, because in that is our right to express. We can only truly express what we're feeling in the moment, and the expression is the circulation of form. It's not enough just to feel it. At a certain stage it needs to be expressed in some form, to manifest. We can only let that be free, this movement, if we are unconditional with it.
Mm-hmm.
If it's enough in its own right, the expression, regardless of how anybody else is going to move with it.
Mm-hmm. So is ego always a personal experience than what it is?
I wish.
And that's what I meant with what I said before. Is it a projection structure?
We focus very much in this course on the duality of me versus you. But it's enough to say that the me can expand to the family structure, to the tribe, to the country, to the Hitler Youth.
Yeah.
Because what it's doing is taking like sub-unities. Like, so the first unity is me. Yeah. But then it's like me, us,
Yeah.
and the others.
Yeah.
So there's like a shared ego now of Bart and Georgi. And then there's the group of the healing. Yeah. And all of those barbarians out there that don't get it. Yeah. You know? So it's a very flexy-dexy thing.
So there's all ego. Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
Okay, let me tell a very simple story to get the difference between ego, personality, and the part we didn't speak about, which is very important. So, I'm coming in the course today, and I feel very insecure. And basically, I didn't do all the courses like you did yet. So, I'm a little bit less. And from this insecurity kind of, I pull back. I don't reach out to people so much. And I don't have the feeling that I really belong here. So this is much more connected with personality. This is basic emotions, feelings with a background, maybe from generations, maybe not, whatever. That's not that important. But then still I very much want to belong and I want to impress. So I'm listening really careful and I start to ask very intelligent questions. I'm not referring to anybody here. I start to ask very, very intelligent questions. And these questions are not that intelligent because these questions are critical. Because to kind of, the feeling that I'm more stupid and not that developed, I have to kind of, to give a form outwards in a way to show everybody that I'm not stupid. Mm-hmm. You understand? So it has to be sharp questions and questions which are kind of a little bit fighting the content of what is taught. You understand? And this is the layer of ego pretense. Oh, I know it already. Oh, I get it. If you really look into this, then, this is ego pretense based on the pain. So, and the pain is the pain of not belonging. So, if we're sitting here all together kind of talking, and there's a person like this in the group, we look at the person and think, oh shit, that's a pain in the ass. So we distance ourselves from it because it doesn't feel comfortable. It's too critical, it's too exposing, you recognize what I'm talking about? It's not really what we are looking for. So, in this, ego is creating exactly the situation it tries to prevent. And this is important to understand, that ego is creating the situation we try to prevent. Maybe not always on the short term, but on the long term, we get exactly what we try to prevent, to allow feeling inside ourselves. So we build our own lessons partly through ego. We create the isolation through ego. We create isolation through our own arrogance, through the separation, in which we have to have a safe position to be part of. You recognize what I'm talking about? So this is what ego is doing. It's a two-cutting sword. Mm-hmm. It creates what it tries to hide. Okay. So it's not something bad, it's a kind of protection, but it's important to see both sides of it. And this is creating an incredible amount of suffering. Because especially when we feel so unsafe that we identified with the ego, we have to be it and we have to hold on to it. So the worst thing, what could happen in my example, is that somebody would say, what a stupid question. It would blow up the ego gigantically. This is not a stupid question. I think you didn't understand me. I went to college. I studied 3 studies. So what did you do? You understand? This is separate.
Yeah. And then you are in this situation, you're feeling, and how do you get out of it?
Make a deep bow. Drop it. Let it go. What the Dalai Lama says basically is, when you're in a game of superior and inferior, let it go. Go to the inferior position. It's endless. Let it go. It doesn't matter. It's not real. It is nothing of this is real. It's all a game. Nothing is real. It's not what it is about. It's a waste of space and time. I don't know how to say it differently. Just let it go. Don't go into this fight.
I know this.
Yeah.
But I'm so afraid, I think.
Yeah.
This is the big fear, to let this go.
Yes, exactly.
It's very big fear.
Yeah. So, one of the things we brought forward in this course is titration, and the promise of what we would work with. Let's, titration. And titration is kind of moving through things drop by drop. We don't need to face this fear totally at once. It's just little by little, little by little. Let go of this fear. This fear is the background of ego. The background of ego is fear. And, it's a fear which is connected with being hurt. And it's a fear we slowly can get used to by allowing the hurt which is behind it, and getting free of the thought that we are hurt because something is wrong with us. This is such a deep-rooted belief we all have. There's something wrong with us, that's why we get hurt, and so we have to be different.
Do good.
Yeah, we have to work so hard to do so much good, to kind of, be okay so we don't get hurt. And the only thing what is coming forward is that we get hurt more. We get hurt a lot. And the ego is creating situations in which we get hurt again and again and again and again. The moment we can drop the ego, we don't get hurt so much anymore. We're in this different space. We see it's not about us, and it was never about us. It was always about the other. It's really not about us. If your mother, is abusive, it's not about you. It's about the mother.
Not even.
And not even, it's something which moves through her, which she is not able to contain.
I know this, but it still hurts a lot.
Yeah. Ow.
It still hurts.
Yes, it hurts a lot.
And it continues hurting.
Yeah. Exactly.
At the end,
So we hang on the cross, yes. That's what it is.
Yeah, you can't change it.
No.
You have to live through this.
Yeah. You cannot change this. You cannot forcome it, you cannot change it. It is what it is.
You will get used to the pain though.
You get used to the self-confidence that you're able to contain the pain.
That's better.
And you're not focused on the pain so much anymore. You feel the pain, but it's not something you hold on to as a big injustice or something which is defining you. It's just the pain.
Yeah.
And then it is as painful, but it's not taking that long, and it doesn't, totally become your horizon.
It has the tendency to become very fearful and then leave again.
Yeah. Yeah. If we hold on to it, it becomes more fearful. If we give it more reality as what we really are, it becomes more painful.
Which also.
Sorry.
May I ask something? I try to understand what I can't understand. I understand, but this ego structure, this personality, is built on beliefs behind us. They are not even from us. We're just building it up because these patterns are from our parents, from the land we live on, and so on. But I think about I can't remember it anymore. I think we have to be solid to be in the structure to express ourselves. Ik weet niet hoe het heet. Mag ik in het Nederlands even? Dat onderzoek naar dat dingen niet solide zijn, maar nou zeg, mijn hoofd doet het niet meer. Wat zeg je?
Vloeibaar?
Ja.
Sorry.
Het wordt heel veel in het boeddhisme, kent het, er is allerlei onderzoek. Waar het op neerkomt is dat ik als met idee heb, I have the idea that we have to be solid one moment to express all these feelings, als fear, anger, these in the outer layer, to move forward, to be fluid again.
Yeah, so basically what you mean, if I translate the question to Georgi, basically there is a fluidity, but the moment we have to give form, which is maybe based on beliefs from past generations we picked up or whatever, then there is this moment of solidity which comes forward.
Yeah.
To give an opinion, to give form, to say something or whatever. And after that we kind of have to surrender to the fluidity again.
Yeah, you can't je kan het niet vastpinnen, de solidity.
Yeah, what you say, you shouldn't hold on to the...
It isn't possible to hold on.
It is not possible to hold on to the solidity. That's the question, I think. Yes? Yeah. Is it possible to hold on to the solidity or not? Or is it not possible? What's happening? Is this right? Is this wrong? Joking.
Ik weet niet meer hoe het heet. Is daar?
You know,
Fluidity.
it's all a little bit abstract, but again, the main point, the main thing, is to dance within duality. My beliefs are all about duality. I believe this as opposed to what? So I believe in universal care. I just gave you that belief about half an hour ago. It's a non-dual position, we instantaneously care by itself, even when we become empty there is care. So I gave you a belief. This can be a belief. God is good, life is good, I believe this. It has a shadow when it's a belief and not an experience, not a possibility. It has a shadow. But dancing in duality, and you're absolutely right, in order to express, in order to take form, in order to move in the best interests of the whole, which is way beyond the private self, and it's way beyond private enlightenment and private liberation as well. In order to dance in duality, beliefs are part of the story. So I personally really trust the belief in universal care. I have experienced benevolence from the core of emptiness and to witnessing birds in nature. I believe in this. Sometimes energetically I'm totally cut off from it. So this belief is really worthwhile. It's like a torch through the dark night of the soul. The belief that it is okay. I am cared for. It's a torch through the wilderness in a way. So who would trash this belief? But at a certain stage, the belief is not the experience, and if the belief is in the way of the experience, then let's check again. Is it really a caring, my consciousness, my emptiness? Is it really caring? Can it refine even more? Can I test it even more? Why not? So it's not about getting rid of anything. It's not about dissociating from anything. It's not about getting free of duality. It's about getting free within duality. It's about dancing within this shitty world.
This glorious shitty world.
Exactly. Because who says it, it's the very nature of freedom is that if freedom depends on getting rid of anything, it ain't free anymore. You cannot be free to be here as long as Wilders doesn't win the election. What's his name?
Yeah.
Yeah, Wilders, you're quite...
This is self-condemnation. We cannot put conditions on freedom. It's not freedom anymore. It's the same with beliefs. So there is a beautiful belief, which we also have now playing out, which is the belief in non-belief. It's still a belief. Because half our beliefs, if not 2/3, if not 90%, are somatic, which means they're unconscious. We can choose not to believe in anything, and we can believe it's good to have no beliefs, but hey, our nightmares at night when we fall asleep, the rage we feel because we didn't get the sweeties at the table in a dream,
But a belief can be helping,
Absolutely.
because we're not always in the mood of experience.
Yeah. And because the evolution of the mind is part of what we're here for.
Yes.
And in a non-dual perspective, we're moving into the area of wisdom. So wisdom, in and of itself, tends not to depend on structures of belief. And it doesn't get lost once it's allowed. So that's part of where we all, humans are right now, very at the kindergarten stage of allowing wisdom to come through the mental, the organ, the sense organ, which is the brain. We're in an evolution. And we can really play with it. You can dance in duality. How would it be for me now to walk down this passage believing this? Or believing its opposite? Or how would it be if I believe my worst nightmare now to be true? It's a dance rather than a fluidity. Which means that beliefs are tools. They're just tools. and they are there to serve us, as opposed to us being here to serve them. When we find ourselves enslaved by our beliefs, intimidated by our beliefs, frightened by our beliefs, angry from our beliefs, they are enslaving us. It's the wrong way around. And they are actually here to serve us.